So let's talk about Wheelock chapter 3. We deal here with third conjugation verbs. We've already learned about first and second conjugation verbs, and so I'm going to start this by asking how to tell the difference between the verbs of these various conjugations. We learned first and second conjugation verbs in chapter 1. We're learning third conjugation verbs here in this chapter. And then in chapter 10, we'll hit fourth conjugation verbs. And so part of this is a little bit of a preview on what's coming. But I want to give you some sense for how to tell the difference here between these different conjugation patterns. Okay, so let's take a look at laudare. Laudare. I want you to remember that we have to go to the infinitive, the second principal part, to figure out what conjugation a verb belongs to. When you look at the infinitive, you see the re ending, and the vowel before is going to indicate whether that is a first, second, third, or fourth conjugation verb. If I have a long A, the A with the macron, then this is first conjugation. Okay? Now, look at monere, to warn. This infinitive before the RE has a long E with a macron. Okay? That makes it second conjugation. Agere. Agere, to lead. Notice that before the RE infinitive form, there is an E, but it's not the long E, such as we see here. There's no macron here. This is what makes this one a third conjugation verb. And then the last one, audire. Audire. This is to hear. Notice that I have before the re, the vowel I, which is long. It's got the macron. That makes this a fourth conjugation type of verb. Okay, so 3 of the 4 conjugations have long vowels before. Laudare with a long A, monere with a long E, audire with a long I, and the third conjugation, it has a short vowel before re, agere. All right, so this is the one we're looking at in this chapter. So the verb's short stem E vowel will cause some changes from what we expect from first and second conjugations. And so what I've done is I've come up with a couple of memory tips to try to help you remember the forms. So here is mnemonic device number 1. And this O here is the O as in O. I forgot what I was doing, okay? But it's in the form of the Latin O, which has the macron. So O, I and you are present, meaning you and me. All right, so O, I and you are present. The imperfect is clear, but the future can be unclear. And here the B refers to the future tense morpheme or tense sign. Oh, I and you are present. The imperfect is clear, but the future can be unclear. So here I'm giving you a window into third, and we're going to see fourth conjugation verb patterns, where for the present tense, O, I, and you are going to be important. For the imperfect tense, its form will be clear, meaning that what I expect are forms of ba to mark the imperfect tense, followed by the personal endings. And then the future can be unclear. Here, what I'm trying to signal to you is that the tense morpheme be is not going to clearly be on the future form for these third conjugation and, as we'll learn, fourth conjugation verb forms. Okay, so that's mnemonic device number 1. Mnemonic device number 2 is this. I want you just to try to remember these, memorize them. First and second conjugation futures will be. That's because they use the tense sign be. First and second conjugation futures will be. Third and fourth conjugation futures will not be. But they will e. Okay, so that's supposed to rhyme to help you remember. Third and fourth conjugation futures will not be, but they will e. Okay, so once again, first and second conjugation futures will be, third and fourth conjugation futures will not be, but they will e. And so let's look at the forms of the present, imperfect, and future active of the third conjugation verb forms. We're going to use agere to lead as our paradigm. And these mnemonic devices will come into play here. So let's start with the present active indicative. And notice that the vowels O, E, and U are going to be prominent here. So you can repeat after me. We're going to go through the singular forms and then the plural ones. So everybody, ago, I lead, agis, you lead, agit, he, she, or it leads, agimus, we lead, agitus, you, y'all lead, and agunt, they lead. Now remember, our present tense could be lead, the simple present, or present progressive, am leading, or the emphatic form, do lead. All right, so all of those are possible. I'm just, for the sake of brevity, giving you one form. Notice that the vowels O, I, and U are present here in our forms, right? Ago, there's the O. Agis, agit, agimus, agitus, there's the I's of O, I, and U. And then for the third plural, agunt, agunt. All right, so O, I, U. So remember our little mnemonic device up here. O, I, and U are present. Okay, O, I, and U are present. And here, I, O, I, and U are used in the present. Now, one thing that you may notice here, and Wheelock makes a point of this as well, what's added to the end of the verb form after you've got the og stem is what looks like the future tense morpheme plus the personal endings, but with the B missing. So we learn bo, be, boo. So if you remember our forms of the future, bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitus, bunt, right? If we drop the B, we have o is it, imus it is und. So it's the same form as the future, but with the B lacking. All right, so that may help you, but it may also confuse you. So I don't want to confuse you, but that is in terms of what you're hearing. It sounds like the future, but this is in fact the present active for third declension forms. Now let's look at the imperfect active, and I want you to note how clear the imperfect is here. There's going to be a verb stem. There's going to be a short e in the infinitive agere, right? So if I were to take the infinitive agere, and if I were to drop the re, then presumably I would be adding the ba to age. But what we're going to notice here is that this short e lengthens to a long e, and then I add the ba tense morpheme and then the personal endings. Okay, but what we've learned to expect is bam, bas, right? Remember my little memory device about La Bamba, Bambas, past tense. Richie Valens sang way back a long time ago. Para bailar la bamba. Bambas, bambas. Okay, so let's read the forms. You can repeat after me again. Singular forms first. Agebam, I was leading. Agebas, you were leading. Agebat, he, she, or it was leading. Agebamus, we were leading. Agebatis, y'all were leading. Agebant, they were leading. Notice that I have long e's before ba in all forms. Okay? And so this is like moneo as well. I get mone, bam, right? Mone, bas, and so forth. So this is behaving very much like my second declension pattern. But as a third declension, that E is really short before the re, but it lengthens for the sake of forming the imperfect. All right? The other thing to notice, of course, is that with bambas bat, bamus batis bant, I expect a long A in all forms unless it shortens due to my ant and trim rule. Remember, ant and trim. So before the M, which is a trim consonant, and the T, which is a trim consonant, and then the NT over here, which is the ant consonants that A shortens. Okay, now let's look at the future. This is where it's really squirrely. Future active. And notice how the future here can be unclear since, as we're going to see, third conjugation futures do not use be. Notice that the first singular and the vowel E, the first singular ending is and then the vowel E comes before the other personal endings. So let's go back and review those mnemonic devices, okay? So again, number one, oh, I and you are present. The imperfect is clear because it uses what I expect, but the future can be unclear. How so? Mnemonic device number two. First and second conjugation futures will be. Third and fourth conjugation futures will not be, but they will E. Okay, so here we're going to see these third conjugation futures ing and eing. Okay, so we're going to see and E here. So agam, say that with me, agam. So I will or shall lead, ages. You will lead, aget. He, she, or it will lead, agemus. We shall or will lead, agetus. You or y'all will lead, agent. They will lead. What are we seeing here? Well, these things, and E, right? So notice I have for first singular, and then I have an E in all the other forms after ag. Ag, ages, aget, agemus, agetus, agent. Okay, so I have the or the E. Is first singular, E in all other forms. Same principle for length, long versus short. What I'm looking for is a long E vowel, but that E shortens in what places? When I have ant and trim, and then for the first singular, there's no E anyway, but it is a short A. So my short vowels come before the ant and trim consonants. Okay. All right. Now, if you're a bit confused because you're so accustomed to seeing be as the future tense sign or tense morpheme, yes, be confused. And if you're thinking, this looks really familiar, yes, it does look really familiar. And so this is a big fat warning here. The future of third conjugation verbs, such as we see right here, okay, those third conjugation verbs with ere, with the short E, look almost exactly like the present tense of second conjugation verbs that end with ere. So I'm going to line these up for you side by side. Remember, we learned the present of second conjugation verbs in chapter 1. Here we're learning the future of third conjugation verbs in chapter 8. All right? So monere is my second conjugation verb, and agere is my third conjugation form. Now, so remember, this is the present tense. In this column, this is the future in this, but for different conjugation patterns. Moneo, for I advise, agam, I will lead. Now here, these are different from each other. Okay, they do not look the same. But look at the rest of these. Second singular, mones, present, you advise. Ages, you will lead. Monet, he advises. Aget, he will lead. Monemus, we advise. Agemus, we will, shall lead. Monetus, you or y'all advise. Agetus, you will lead. And monent, they advise. Agent, they will lead. future forms on the right, present forms on the left, but the endings look identical. Ace, ace. Et, et. Amos, amos. Atus, atus. Ent, ent. All right, so the only difference here being the first person singular forms. Okay, so raises a question, doesn't it? If I meet a verb that ends with amos, a first person plural form, we, how will I know whether or not it's the present, I blink, or I am blinking, or whether it's the future, I will blank? How do I know? Because if I see Amos, it could be something like we advise, or it could be we will lead. So how do I tell? First, we want to make sure we know the principal part, or the principal parts, and that especially we know not only the lexical form, which is the first principal part, which is the present tense, but that we know the second principal part, which is the present infinitive. And then we need to ask ourselves, what does it end with? Does it end with ere, second conjugation then, it's got that long E, or does it end with ere, short E? That would make it third conjugation. And then if it's second conjugation, then it's going to be the present tense of the second conjugation form. And I need to translate it like it's present. But if I find out that it's a third conjugation verb, but it's got the long E plus the personal endings, then it's a future, because third conjugations, futures look like this. All right? And what you have to remember, the present tense of third conjugation verbs don't have the long E here. What do they have? They have the forms o is it, imus, itus, und. Okay? So there's no long E here at all. And by the way, the present is ago with the O. There's a reason why the future here doesn't have O, because if it did, it would look like the present. So that's why we get agam, agam. All right? So let's practice here. Let's practice a few of these. Let's take the verb disques, disques. Now, this comes from disco. I want you to notice that we have this ace ending. So we know that's got to be second singular, right? Second singular. Here it is right here. But it could be a second singular ace, that's second conjugation or third conjugation. And if it's second conjugation, it's going to be present tense. I am doing something. If it's a future third conjugation form with ace, then it's I will do something. So how do I figure this out? Well, here's the first principal part. Here's the second principal part. And notice that it ends with ere rather than ere. So which conjugation pattern does this follow? This follows third conjugation. All right? That's third conjugation. Now, I probably shouldn't put numbers over here because it's going to maybe confuse you on conjugation pattern. Ere is third conjugation. So if this ace ending is on a third conjugation form, then what is it? Ace ending on a third conjugation form is future, right? So this has got to be, I'm parsing this out, future active indicative, second singular. So how am I going to translate that? I'm going to translate that as you, and it's got to be future, will, and disco is learn, so you will learn. Now let's contrast this with teres, teres. Here's the ace ending. Again, ace endings, that long E, are second singular, okay? But they could be, depending on whether they're second or third conjugation, they could be present or future, right? Well, how do I know? Go to the principal parts. Look at your second principal part. Terere. And notice that it's got the long E. What conjugation pattern is this? that second conjugation. All right? And so what does that tell me that the tense must be then? It must be present, active indicative. Okay? And so I'm not going to translate this as future, but as present. You terrify. You terrify me, sir. Okay? Not you will terrify. What would it look like to say you will terrify? Second conjugations, put the be in, right? With first and second conjugation, futures will be. The be will be there. Terrebus. Okay? Now, let's look at this third example. Wouldn't. All right, so here I have ent. And when I see ent, there's a couple of possibilities here for it, right? Let's get rid of the circles here. What do I see when I see went or ent? Manent, agent, right? Those are third person plural. They could be present or future depending on whether it's second conjugation or third. So, I know this is third plural. Okay, but which is it? Go to the second principal part. The infinitive is videre, and that long E tells me it is second conjugation. And if I have ent with second conjugation, that is on the second conjugation, that's the present, right? That's the present side. So this is present, active indicative, third plural. Then I'm going to translate this as they, not will, but just simple present. They see, or they are seeing. And let's contrast this with scribent. Here I have the ent ending as well. So again, that could be third plural, but is it present or future? Depends on whether it's second or third conjugation. How do I know? Go to the second principal part. I have ere, not ere, but ere, the short E before the re. That tells me this is third conjugation, and if it's third conjugation, then this is what? Third conjugation with ent is future, okay? So this is future person, or future active third person. So how am I going to translate that? It's they will scribo, they will write. Okay, well, let's look at the last two. I have wincome, say that's me, wincome. And this is from winco and winkere. So this ending, what is that? This one's easy, but before we look at the form, let's just look at the principal part here. Second one, that's got a short E before the re for the infinitive. I know that's third conjugation now, right? And if it's third conjugation, what would the ending be on a third conjugation verb? Here's agam, that's future. That's future. Okay, so this is future active indicative, and it's first singular. So, I will conquer. Wincome, I will conquer. And let's compare this with dokeo. All right? Second principal part has the long E before re. Dokere. So this is what conjugation? Second conjugation. And what is the O of dokeo on second conjugation? Like moneo, there it is. It's a present tense, first singular. Okay, so that's present and first singular. So this is I, but it's not future. Just simple present, I teach, or progressive, I am teaching. All right, so hopefully that'll help you to know whether you're looking at present or future. You've got to know your principal parts. You've got to know that second principal part to know if it's first or second or third or fourth conjugation. All right, last section here is the present active imperative of third conjugation verbs. So normally, how do you form the imperative? You take the present infinitive, the second principal part, you drop re, and then you create the imperative forms. No personal ending for second singular, and te for second plural. Just as a reminder, for laudare, right? There's the infinitive. Remember what we did was we chopped off the re to get second singular. There's no ending. That's lauda. And then we add te to get second plural. Laudate or laudate. All right, so just want to, I'll remind you here how we form the first and second conjugation imperatives before we look at the third, but just to give the brief overview here. So we'll do what we typically do for third conjugations for the second singular. So agere, right? We're going to drop the re, and we're left with age. And with no ending, that is the second singular, lead. But for second plural, you would normally think you would just add a te, right? Agete, but that's not what happens. This short e right here, it's going to become a short I instead of an e before that. That should be personal ending, te. So agere, drop that a, I have age, but then the e shifts to an I and I get agete. Agete. And so here the third conjugation imperative, second plural, will look different. All right, than normal. So let's just read the form. So for first conjugation, lauda is you man or you woman, singular, praise. Laudate, and that's you all, praise. With moneo, second conjugation, monere, drops the re, and I'm left with mone, advise, to a single you, and then monete, and that's hey you all, you plural, advise. And then for agere, it's age, lead, you single person, and for plural you, agite, lead, you all. All right, last but not least, there are some irregular second singular imperative forms for some third conjugation verbs. 4 of them in particular are mentioned in our chapter that drop the short e vowel from the stem. So ducere, presumably you drop the re and the second singular would be duque, but notice it shortens to duke. So duke, lead, consider, to a single u. All right. So these are all second singular imperatives. Dicere, to say, and so instead of dike, when you drop that a, you get dic, say. And for those of you that speak Spanish, you might remember diga, like dígame, means say, tell me, and I say is digo, and you say is dices, right? And this is based on the same root as the Latin verb. Facere is to do, and you might expect face to be the imperative second singular, but fac without that short e. Do, fac. And then faire is to bear, and its shortened irregular form is faire for the second singular. So bear with me. All right, so duc, dic, fac, bear. So those are your irregular forms. So happy hunting with your third conjugation verbs.